My name is Tracy Heilers. I am founder and executive director of Coalition of Schools Educating Mindfully, and we're so glad to have Jessica Janowsky here. She wrote a chapter in our Educating Mindfully book, and all throughout this year, each month, we're kind of doing it book club format, nice and informal, where we're going to hear straight from the people who wrote the book, their personal stories, how that led to their professional stories. And for some of the authors, chapter authors like Jessica, things have already changed and transpired and expanded even more. So I'll just kind of pick your brain and you share, and so I won't really give too much of an intro here. So maybe Jessica, start with just the generals of where you're at your school and how long you've taught, what you taught, stuff like that.
Okay, so I came into education late because I was a probation and parole officer right out of college.
Wow.
And that, I know it's like good. So then I had my first two babies, and I wanted to shift something safer. And also, when they were getting ready to be school age, I wanted to have something that kind of followed their schedule. So that's really why I went into education. But I've always loved kids. I come from a big extended family, little, intimate family. So my mom was one of 13 children. And it's just a huge family.
Wow.
Anyway, my dad was from a pretty big family too. But so I always loved kids and been around kids. But I went to education, really into education because of my boys. And then I taught first grade for about 9 years. I love first graders. They're actually my favorite. In the meantime, during that, I also, here comes the dog. I also fell in love with becoming a fitness instructor. So I always have been active, but I kind of gravitated to instructing fitness. And I noticed when I was in the first grade classroom, I was too exhausted to teach first grade all day. And then because I taught every single night, fitness every single night also, I just couldn't keep up with that pace. I was really physically drained. So I took a 5th grade position. And I was in 5th grade for a long time. But every year I was more and more unhappy with the behavior problems and the self-regulation that was non-existent and all these things. It felt like a disconnect from parents and also from administrators. And I just felt like I was alone to deal with all this. That's how I felt. So I'm kind of a fun person, and I was becoming more and more negative, and that just wasn't me. So I felt like I was contributing to the problem. And there were a couple of years where I really had to talk myself into going to work. This is not me. I used to love to go to work, and I loved my job, but I was becoming where I was just sick to my stomach even thinking about dealing with the kids. So I started meditating. I went back to my yoga roots, and which I had done, as a kid. And it took me a long time, but all of a sudden, one day in meditation, it dawned on me, go get your yoga certification. You're already a fitness instructor in all these other capacities, bar, Pilates, kickboxing, dance, I did all these other things. Go get your yoga cert. So I went down that road, and in the meantime, I had a conversation with my principal, and I said, I want to do yoga and mindfulness. It helps me so much calm down and feel less stressed. Would you allow me to do that? And so he was totally on board.
Wow.
Yep. And then so in my yoga, my 200 hour, we did a lot of mindfulness. They were actually the first ones that introduced me to the concept of mindfulness. I fell in love with it, and I found it so applicable in all these ways in the classroom. So then I decided, well, I want to do this more than just in my room. So I put together a presentation for our superintendent and the Board of Education, and I asked, can I do this full time? Well, that was a journey in itself. The very first year that I taught yoga and mindfulness was, I want to say 16, 17. I had to think about this for a minute going backwards. 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19. So 17, 18, I think was the first year I taught it, but it was really, I'm going to call it an initiation because it was less than a pilot. I was still in my 5th grade classroom full time. They sent an aide to my room for 40 minutes a day. And at that time, my kids were in literacy stations. The aide watched that, and I went down to a space and I taught one yoga mindfulness lesson to one homeroom a day. That's all that I could fit in. And that was exhausting because I was trying to come up with these great lessons, but still maintain integrity in my curriculum for my 5th graders and blah, blah. And I still taught fitness every night. So that was the very first year. What happened was, just in that time, it took me 2.5 months to get through the whole school one time, doing one homeroom a day. The teachers and the students were seeing a big difference just in that little bit, like maybe 5 or 6 lessons through the whole school year or less. And so then I said, well, I want to do this full time. Can I do this full time? So they thought about it and they decided they were going to let me pilot it. So that was the last 2 years I piloted it. And Coburn, where I taught for all those years, their numbers, our discipline numbers were so much lower than before. We still had kids getting suspended.
So this is 3rd to 5th graders, right?
Third through 6th.
3rd to 6th, okay.
3rd through 6th, yeah. We have always been the largest, Coburn was the largest intermediate school in our district in terms of numbers, and typically had the most behavior problems. And there's, how do I put this so that it doesn't come across wrong, but that it's truthful. Our population was very impoverished, and there wasn't that much of a gap between parental economic status, where in some other intermediate schools, you might have some at the very low end and some not so at the low end. So there'd be like a difference but our kids were pretty much, there wasn't that gap that we see in other locations in our district. So anyway, the numbers the last 2 years had come down significantly, such that we only had a handful of kids continuing to get in such trouble that they would get suspended or expelled. But we weren't having like these huge numbers of kids because all these kids were now self-regulating. It was really cool. So we did still have some suspensions and things, but we're talking like it's that tier 3, that really intensive kid. The tier 1 and the tier 2 kids were figuring it out with all these strategies. So that was very fun. At the end of last year, I got a call from the second in charge. He's in charge of personnel, but he's really a big administrator. And he said to me, well, what do you want to do with your program? And I always have known I wanted to go beyond just my school and go into the district. In the meantime, during the program, I had also been educating myself. I went through the University of Buffalo to get my trauma-informed care organizational certificate. I had gotten through National Wellness Institute a worksite wellness specialist certificate. And I just kept, and everybody's like, it's Christmas, why aren't you resting? And I'm like, I'm on a mission. Because I wanted to align myself with having as much education and programming and everything under my belt that I can really make a case. I'm not just doing yoga. I am trauma informed, using yoga to help me inform strategies better for mental health. So that's kind of my goal. So the whole it's kind of really crazy because the whole program is for my idea, yes, but I'm kind of developed. I don't know. I really want to call it a curriculum, but that's kind of what it is. Like, I'm not using anybody else's stuff. that's a little bit of a lot. Like, of course we get ideas from other places. Of course we, we read something and we reference it or whatever like that. But I have designed so many of the lessons myself just based on what I've had in the classroom and what I've seen kids do. And I use science. It's so fun. I'll use a lot of science lessons and reading and writing to teach mindfulness. And it's so amazing to see the kids grow and just find their calm. So oh, that leads me back to today. What do you want to do, Jessica? I said I want to spread my love district-wide. And they said, you're on. So now I'm in 8 schools out of 11. Wow. I'm in all the pre-K through second. There's 4 of those. And then 3rd through 6th, there's 4 of those. And I'm busy, but in a good way.
So do you think that came out a little of the pandemic, or when he first asked you how's this going to look next? Was it kind of like, how's this going to look next year actually, or just in general did he ask you like?
I think
it's great that he came to you. You didn't even have to go to him. Numbers talk.
Well, yeah. I think that they were, so how do I put this? I was on that cusp when I first proposed it, and I was doing all my research and I was presenting. I did that in April, May, I want to say was the year 2017 or 18, because July, I know you guys are in Chicago, but in New York in July, so I was right in front of it. A few months after I proposed all this, that's when New York State Ed said every public school needs a mental health curriculum. They need to do something. So I was right in front of it. I've always been like right in front of it here.
Excellent.
Which is kind of like intuitively, I just knew that something needed to be different. And I wanted to be part of the solution and not continue to be part of the problem, because I really was very negative. Like toward the end of my 5th grade in the classroom, I was being very negative. I didn't like myself for that. And I knew I could be a different person, but I just had to figure out how to do it. And now I absolutely love my job. It's really, truly a dream job. It's this program that I've created and nobody's telling me really what to do. I check in with them. I'm constantly, they'll probably get annoyed with me because I'm like, I did this today. I did it because I want them to know that I'm accountable to them still and to know what it is. But it's just been so amazing. So I think this is how I think if other people wanted to try to do what I'm doing, I think you really probably need classroom experience. So I think if you're just a yoga teacher coming off the street, it's not going to be the same. I think you should definitely, if you want to do the yoga and not just the mindfulness with it, I think you should have your yoga certification. So I've got my 200, I've got my 300, I've become a YASAP. So that's where you can offer professional development or yoga training really through Yoga Alliance. I've got that credential now, and I've got my registered children's yoga teacher. And I just applied, pray for me, to be a registered children's yoga teacher training school through Yoga Alliance.
I feel you're on the leading again with this, because so are you, obviously you're saying how you with your unique situation, you're kind of developed this curriculum that is pretty unique. Is the goal maybe then with being a provider, to be able to offer a course in that you can help then other schools? Or where are you hoping to go with, I mean, you're teaching in school, so why do you need the provider?
So I know it's crazy. So what my goal is, I guess, is I want to train other people after school hours. So obviously it wouldn't be during school hours, it would be weekends and after school hours in the yoga, if my yoga school accepted, which I should say when, because I really think it will be. Positive things happen to positive people though, right?
Yes.
So you got to think positive if you want things. By the way, do you want to hear the name of my school?
Yes.
It's going to be called Yoga Magic. Magic stands for mindfulness, acceptance, gratitude, integrity, and compassion. which I really feel like that's what yoga is for me.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, all those components. And I love acronyms. My husband says I have a problem because I love acronyms.
I think that's an educator thing. It's not just you. I've noticed that.
Yeah, but basically I would just train people to do, you know, the regular stuff, yoga poses, games, mindful activities, songs and chants, and build a yoga class for children. And really a yoga class for children is so much different than adults. You want a perky pace. You really don't, this is going to sound terrible, but you don't really care so much how they look in their poses, as long as they're safe. So before I teach yoga to any kid, the very first time I'm working with the kids, and like if I go to their classroom for the first time, there's a lot of firsts this year for me because most of the district is just now being exposed to me, where, you know, just one school had me before. So now there's 7 buildings and, you know, 30 classrooms in each building that are starting to know me. So I always will say things like my very first session with them. If you look around, all our skin color is different, right? And our hair is different and our eyes look different. And some of us are tall or short, so we look different. And I said, and that's a beautiful thing. And when we do yoga, we're gonna look different too. So it doesn't matter what you look like in your pose, and don't compare yourself to somebody else, how they look in their pose. The main thing is you wanna be comfortable in your poses. And we kind of go over that. So if a kid is doing, you know, a triangle, and I'll just kind of, I know you can't see my whole body, but, you know, and they're like more like this and kind of not straight like we would do, who cares? Who cares? Like that's, I guess it's, for me, that's not the important part for kids yoga. It's get them moving, get them having fun. You're just exposing them to, you know, your body can do that. Your body can do this. And how does it feel? So, and also with kids yoga, you want like you want to bring them way up. I think this is just my philosophy, and get all the wiggles out before you really start to bring them down. And when you do that and you can bring them down, it's so peaceful. But if you try to, because I've been in other teachers' classes and their philosophy is different, and that's okay, we're all different. But they try to keep kids so calm for the whole entire time, like it's, and that to me is more of an adult feel, and then they end up with behavior problems. Like kind of, I feel like, especially the littler they are, the younger the child, the more I think you want to get their energy out, let them be silly, let them have fun, let them play games, and then at the end, when they're kind of tired, guide them into a meditation, guide them into a calm, you know, breathing and things like that. So, and it's really kind of,
the teachers don't want you to send them back all like, what?
oh no, teachers would not, teachers don't like that. But
Yeah.
they do love, teachers love to see their kids having fun at the same time. But yeah, you want them calm before they go back to the learning. But if you try to keep them too calm, I feel like if you try to keep them too calm the entire time, and they're already sedentary all day, and they're, you know, then they're kind of, I don't know, you're just not doing your best for them. I feel like you got to get them up and moving. That's why we have asana before shavasana.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But anyway.
So do you, like with the older, like with the 6th graders, I feel like that's when,
You're right.
They're like, hold on, I'm not sure I want to be doing that like I did last year. Or something.
Yes. Actually, it starts about the end of 4th grade. At least that's what I've noticed, is they get a little, so that's okay. I do less physical poses. We'll do some calming. They're more into the mindfulness. They really still love to meditate. It's more of a body issue thing though with them. It's not that they don't love the poses as much as they don't love to be with their peers who can see them do the poses, and they might not feel comfortable because their bodies are changing. And I totally get that. So we might just do some like seated, like we will just do way less. and some easy cat cows, you know, stretch the neck or whatever. More, kind of more almost adult-ish with poses, and a lot less of them. And we do a lot more mindfulness, and thinking about feelings, thinking about making appropriate choices and choosing your responses versus just reacting. So I do these. Oh, I love to bring anatomy into my classes because I'm still a teacher first and foremost. So I love teaching about the brain. I love teaching about the heart, and then I love teaching about the heart, where the actual physical, you know, what it's doing, pumping the blood and all that. But then the metaphysical, or the subtle body heart, you know. So like how you're feeling and how it connects to your energy. Oh, do you want to do a mindfulness activity with me right now?
Yes, of course. Actually, as we were first I usually try to start with a mindful minute. And I'm like, oh, I forgot a mindful minute.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite lessons. This is one of my favorite lessons, Tracy. I usually do it in January, because isn't Martin Luther King Jr. Day in January? I want to say that's in January. So this is when I usually like to do this in January, but we're going to do it today. It is one of my favorite lessons ever. Okay, so I have my singing bowl. And I'll just pretend you're a kid, okay? I'll just pretend you're a kid. Okay, so we would talk about, we're just going to sit and breathe, and you can choose to close your eyes or to keep them open. But please sit still and silent and just listen for the end of the noise. So this is called faded tone. You might know this activity, faded tone. Here we go. And then usually I ask them to put their hands over their heart when they can't hear it anymore. And so when everybody's hands are over their heart, we talk about how many times did I ring the bowl? Once. But how long did you hear the noise? And I'll talk about, that was kind of a long time. Right. I said, exactly, because me hitting the ball, that's the action. Okay, that's the action. And then the sound is the energy that it creates. And our actions can be kind or unkind. And no matter what we do, no matter which action it is, if it's kind or unkind, it creates an energy that goes out beyond just us, and it affects all these people. And so then we kind of bring it back to Martin Luther King Jr. and how he spoke these powerful words, and he wanted every person to be treated with tolerance and respect. And he was so important, and his words were so strong, and they affected so many people that we actually have a day off to recognize him, because his energy is still kind of spreading out like the sound of a singing bowl. So anyway, I kind of love that. And they're like, you know, but if you think about everything we do and everything we say is energy, and the people that we're around and that can hear it either benefit from it because we're positive and we're loving and we're kind, or maybe they don't because it's hurtful. So we have to pause and choose and think just a little bit and be present. Who's around? Who are you going to be affecting? Can you be kind? Can you choose kind? And I feel like kids can do it. They just have to know that it's within their power.
Yeah, that's great. It's always funny how the singing bowls, they're when you re-listen to this recording, it's like,
I know, I'd be really bad.
It's not ever as pretty over Zoom. But
I'm so sorry. Yeah,
it still makes for a nice, fun mindfulness activity. So is your district doing any virtual, or is it all in person right now?
I'm glad you asked me that. We are doing virtual. In fact, I don't know. Am I able to share my screen or no?
Yeah.
Oh, I can, because you let me do that. Okay, so I'll show you this. Whoops. Wait, it says, can you see that or no?
No.
Huh.
Maybe I think
I'm
I
trying
have
to.
all participants can share screen.
So do I hit share?
Yeah.
I don't know. Share sound, optimize screen. I don't know what I'm hitting.
So once you tap share screen, then hit the share button.
Yeah, it's not doing anything. Wait, should I hit basic, advanced, or files? Basic, right? I want basic.
Yeah, I always have done just basic.
And Google? I think Google.
There we
Oh,
go.
can you see that?
Yeah, now I can.
Oh, okay, awesome. Okay. So I do lots of lessons in Schoology. I have 4 courses. One is intermediate comm kids, primary comm kids. Those are pretty similar right now. Express your comm for grade 7 through 12. And I do one for the staff lounge. Everyone is welcome. But I'll take you in the primary. It's pretty similar right now too. You're going to be able to see mine because I'm the administrator of this. So when I show you, like if you were to have access to the Schoology, this is the way we present to kids in Elmira virtually. So I have yoga classes. These are all basically just quick poses. Like how would you do hero's pose, for instance? And it's just me really quickly within, I don't even know how this is like a 1-minute video. We don't need to watch it, but I'm just saying like all these first ones are just, this is how, oh, I did that during COVID, by the way, when we were actually at home. That's why you saw my linger in there. But if I go down into this again, and you can see all these other things I've put up, I haven't published them yet because I'm publishing one a week so that people don't get too overwhelmed. But these are all the yoga classes. So I start them off with standing poses and seated poses and balance poses. And then once they have all the poses, then I start to do flows with them and yoga class sequences and stuff that they'll get into soon. Okay, so we have mindfulness lessons. Right now, I've only done this one I did the other day.
Leave it alone. Oh, love
Leave it alone. So we can learn a lot from a tree, when we talk about deciduous trees. So these are all lessons I've done for the virtual kids. Okay. And also teachers can pull these up and use them in their own classrooms. So basically the whole idea was, I made a mess. See, all right here, those are a bunch of leaves. And I talk about what you can leave alone and blah, blah, blah. So that goes on. But see, all these lessons, they're also like somebody like you, Tracy, could get them right in my YouTube because I use my YouTube to upload it into Schoology.
So we could go on your, is it
yes.
Fit Chick or what's it
yes.
called? Okay.
Yep, this is the YouTube. So it's just called Ultimate Fit Chick. I'd love to get that to more people.
Yeah.
So there's that same exact lesson. And then I popped it into Schoology when I go back to Schoology, I have a little bit more of a description and then a coloring page they can download and print for, to do the activity, write down something that they would. But this is one for adults. Look at this one. I just put it up 5 days ago, and that's like the most views I've ever had. I did this one, I think, for the older kids. I can't remember. But I have different playlists. So yoga, that's for all the kids stuff that I do. And then I have some for adults. Like this is adult class. This is a jump class that I teach at the studio. These are all the rest of these are for adults. Meditations, even that is for adults. Okay. This is when I was being trained, so I kept that playlist. This was for all my 300-hour stuff. I kept that playlist. For when I got certified, I had to upload all these videos. Oh my, but this is really, if you're looking for kids, that's the playlist. And then over here, that's an actual lesson I did with kids. Over here, it goes from the oldest down to the most recent. Okay. So That's the one I was just telling you about, the one that I love so much.
Yeah.
I did it a long time ago, but I put it on the wrong playlist. And then I was like, where is my MLK video? And so I popped it into here where it belongs. This one is interesting. Milk bubbles, you know, I did that asynchronously with kids. But this one, I didn't even know. A teacher took this of me just like, honestly, like less than 2 weeks ago. And there's no kids in this video at all, but it's a really good, and it's too long to show you all, but this is really a good example of what I'm doing right now in the classrooms with kids during COVID. You can see my mask and you can hear their little cute little voices. I don't know if I can find one where I'm asking them and they answer me.
You don't do anything bad. Do you yell at her? Yes, that's loud.
It's hard to hear, but
Punching and hitting and kicking people helpful or hurtful?
yeah.
Hurtful, right? So we don't want to do that. And you
What grade
said
is
something.
this?
Yes, a teacher just, she,
What grade, do you know what grade you're with? Or is this?
yes, that was kindergarten, I think.
Okay.
So I'll get out of that and I'll get out of so
Thank
that's
you
how
for
I,
sharing all of this.
what's that?
I was just gonna say thank you for sharing all. I had forgotten that you had a YouTube channel. We'll direct
Yeah.
everybody to.
Yes,
Well,
because so people can go on there and get ideas maybe, because I'm every single week now I'm uploading. Now there's like so many videos. The first like a lot were just the poses, because I really wanted to make sure when the kids weren't with me that they had some indication of how to do it at least safely when they're not, you know, at least semi-safely. So that's why I did all the poses. And then I started doing lessons and blah, blah, blah. It just took on its own. But so I have mindfulness stuff. I have you can see I haven't published it yet, but I do have some meditations in here for them. And I have to add more to it this year. That was last year. I did all those during COVID. Some breathing things. The star, that's my favorite. That's my go-to. It stands for stop, take a deep breath, and relax and release. And we talk about how the and part. So let's see. The and. Oh, I don't want the video. Sorry, I don't want that. That's not what I wanted. Go back, Jessica, because otherwise you're gonna get tired of seeing me. I wanted a picture. Okay, this. The and part is the pause. That's where I encourage kids to choose a response. So stop is like you're being mindful. You're feeling this difficult emotion right now. You're being mindful of it. You're taking a deep breath to calm your nervous system, because we know that works really well. Instead of fight, flight, freeze, we're purposely taking a deep breath. And then during the pause between the inhalation and the exhalation, you're choosing your response. Hopefully it's helpful and it's not hurtful. We talk about that a lot. And then relax and release. And you do it as many times as you need to. And then that's actually, I can't tell a lie. This is the Conscious Discipline Star by Dr. Becky Bailey, who I really adapted hers, because her star breath is smile, take a deep breath, and release, I think, or relax. It's something similar. I didn't like smile. I liked her concept. I didn't like smile because I think it's fake when we're in a bad mood and people tell us to smile. But I think it's okay to stop and notice your bad mood. And then this, I just wanted to share. This was a kid last year that drew this for me. And so this is the iconic breath I want to use evermore.
Yes.
And if you really look closely, you see these crinkles?
Yeah.
Because his mom went to throw it away, and it was actually in the garbage. And he's like, I'm sorry, Mrs. Janowsky, I drew this for you. And my mom threw it away and I was so mad, but here it is.
So you had to stop and take a breath after you got
Yes. And so this was like a breathing activity we just did, milk bubbles. Have you ever seen milk bubbles? That's fun. You breathe hard and then make the bubbles all come out.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that? So
I used to do it as a kid. It's been a while.
Yes, I just did that today. I actually posted this a week or so ago, and a teacher I was working with today said, I saw that and I want you to do that with my kids. So I did that today for her kids. And these are all unpublished. These are all breasts that will come out. Like every week I'll publish another one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Then some self-regulation stuff. There's probably not a ton on here. Oh, basically, you know, I just stuck. These are all unpublished as well, but they will get, if I publish too much at once, it's overwhelming for people. So I like to make it fresh. And then I just they can download these and color them.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know what?
I
I want to shift a little bit because I have more questions.
Yes. Okay. Let me get out of here and I can come back to, how do I stop sharing? Okay. There we go.
Yeah.
I'm not that great with.
I love it. I know in your chapter you talked a little bit about some of the resistance from some colleagues. Like as you've been in the school a little bit longer, has that changed at all? Or I know, or what? Because I know your position as well includes doing PD with the staff. Like, what are your goals for that? Like, for getting started?
That's a great question. So right now my PD is really in the Schoology because they're not encouraging us to be together, or, you know, and everybody's got so much to do that they really they're spending a lot of their PD with like the technology pieces for staff.
Yep.
The SEL for students is going very well, and that's a high priority, but for staff.
So do you just suggest that I'm kind of asking personally too, I'm substitute teaching at my husband's district and I'm on their wellness committee. So they've created, they use Schoology as well.
Oh.
They've just created a group within Schoology and we're asking for my help with things to add to it. So I was definitely peeking.
Yes.
But then how do you just email them and say like a reminder, oh, I've added this?
It just updates.
Okay.
So they get an alert that when you add something, they get an alert through their email if they're in your course. And it'll say, yes, it'll say, Jessica Janowsky updated in staff lounge.
Okay.
And so they'll know that way. But
okay.
do you know how to share your access code if you do anything in Schoology?
I'll figure that out. I don't need to go into all that, but I was more like, how did you introduce, like, obviously they know that you're in a new position and obviously they know it's not going to be in person because of the situation.
I'm actually in person most of the time.
Okay.
I actually, you know, that little clip where I was in a blue shirt and that was in the classroom. I'm in person most of the time, but I also Zoom with teachers that are only virtual.
Okay.
And I also build the Schoology pages for everybody, including families can have access to it.
Mm-hmm.
Teachers can use it in their classrooms, or they can send it off to their kids to use by themselves at home. So there's lots of different ways. I'm just kind of all over the place.
Well,
but I feel like that's what I need to be doing to help, you know, with all these issues. So what I usually do for the staff though, I think I got out of it. But I could show like last month was domestic violence month. Domestic violence, yeah, I got out of it. That's okay. Domestic violence and prevention. So what I had done is I gathered some facts about why domestic violence is happening even more now during COVID. People are together more. Lots of families are even more hurting, lacking for resources. The resources aren't as available because maybe jobs are gone or people are sick, or for whatever the reason, there seems to be more, you know, certain families have less than before.
Yeah.
Okay, so domestic violence has gone up, and I found our community resources and compiled that together. These are the agencies you can contact. These are their numbers, their websites, blah, 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 blah. And why it was important to really keep our eyes on our kiddos, especially the virtual kiddos. Because when they're coming into school, you can see and you can get a better sense. But when they are virtual and their screens are off, like they hide themselves, you know what I mean? And you think they're there. They appear like they're there, but you can't really see them. You don't know what's going on. It's really a scary time. And so yeah, I mean, I did that whole kind of little presentation for staff so that they would have resources. And then I did one on, I've done two, domestic violence and, oh, suicide, because that's up for teens. I did one on that in September. So those are the kinds of things I put in the school staff stuff, like this for the teachers, because I feel like that's really part of my job too, even though nobody said do this. This is just what I feel like I should be doing. If this is my title, these are the things that come under trauma. So yeah. And then one of my students from NYCTD, he gave me an idea and I already forgot what it was. No, he mentioned something in one of his responses about, oh, I know what it was. He was responding to one of my questions, but he was telling me a story about how he has a boy that's very naughty virtually.
Oh,
The
you're
boy.
talking about the class you teach, your grad class.
Yeah, now I switched.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm talking
No,
about that now. Because that's happening right now. My Practicing Peace course through New York Center for Teacher Development, that's the college, NYCTD. It's a teacher-centered college, but I know that more than just New York teachers get in there. I think anybody can do it as long as it's as long as your school will recognize the credits.
Right.
Okay. So Practicing Peace is all about bringing mindfulness into your own classrooms, no matter what you teach. So, and then my other one is Trauma Informed Educator, and that will start up in January again. They're 5-week courses, and they're 45 hours of work, 3 credits. And you can get your master's, you can get towards your master's, or you can just take PD credits. So the difference is PD credits, it's a lot less money and it's a little bit less work too. But if you're taking it for graduate, it's a lot more money. It's still reasonable though. And it's a little bit more work. I have to have different assignments or more assignments for my graduate level students. So back to the story though, he was talking about how this student was being very naughty virtually, saying it or giving his screen name inappropriate. And then when it was time for somebody to share, he was unmuting himself and interrupting everybody else, and then not answering when it was his turn to answer, just like driving this poor teacher crazy, right? But God bless him. Part of the assignment was actually think about a student that's very difficult. And I want them honestly to explore that. Why is a student difficult? Because I feel like if you go right into think about them in a better way, it's like not honoring that the teacher is frustrated. The teacher's frustrated. It's okay to feel frustrated. Why are we frustrated? Now imagine, this is so part of the assignment. Now imagine you're about to go into a parent-teacher conference. Nobody is gonna go. I mean, I don't think most of us would go in and be like, you're kidding. Like, we try to think of positives, right? At least for the parents, to try to keep that. So you're about to go in, think of at least 2 character traits that are positive, because you want to say that to the parent. What are those? And so that's kind of how and then there's a couple other things they have to do in the assignment. And so it kind of leads you through, I'm acknowledging that I'm frustrated, and this is why with this student drives me crazy. That's okay. I feel like it's okay. We're mindful of it. And then, so let's figure out a way to choose a response that's helpful for the child, show that we care. We're trying to help them be their best selves, but also compassionate to ourselves too, right? Try to think of, what are their qualities? They got to have some good qualities. And I always do a bunch of examples for my NYCTD students. So whenever I ask them things like this, I've already done an example one that was true for me, so that they're not like, they can have a springboard. And then So how can you use their strengths to empower them to make better choices? That's really important. Strength-based is really important, especially for kids in trauma or kids that have chaotic lives. We need to offer them voice and choice constantly, voice and choice, as much as we possibly can. The great thing about offering choices is, as the adult, you get to set the parameters. It can be, you can sit in your seat or you can sit on the floor next to your desk, and those are the only two choices, but they still feel empowered, and you've decided you accept either of those. So you're never going to give them a choice that you can't stand yourself.
Right.
Because you have to be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's really, really powerful. A few days ago, a couple weeks ago, I was in a kindergarten class, and I love to explain choice to little kids, and this is how I do it usually. I was like, Mrs. Janowsky always wants to give you a choice because you're doing an excellent job right now. And people that are cooperating and are kind and are being compassionate, making good choices, they always get more and more choices because they're showing they can do the right things to them. So, and then I gave them their choice, whatever it was. And then I said, oh, and I have a secret about choices. Did you know that when you're unhelpful and unkind and disruptive and making it difficult for everybody else, that's not a good choice? And that's when your parents or your teachers say, nope, you did that, so you have to sit here, or you did that, so now you're going to do this. And they take your choices away because you weren't making good choices. And so I was going on and on. I'm very theatrical when I'm like all wiggly. So.
Yeah.
But that keeps their attention better. So then we were talking about, I was like, I like to make my own choices. I don't like people bossing me around you. And this one kid in the back, he's like a little kindergartner, and he's just looking at me like, I hate it when, and he's not saying anything, but you can see his face. I hate it when people tell me what to do. And then I'm like, but when you make good choices, you get more and more choices. And that's where your power comes in. When you get to choose, you are powerful. When you lose your choices and somebody else is telling you what to do, they're in charge of you. And I don't want anybody in charge of me, And so you just try to explain it so that hopefully the message is, I want to cooperate. I want to be helpful. I want to be kind so I can continue to be the boss of me. But he's like buying into it. And I could tell he was probably naughty because I was like, somebody tells you to you do that. He's like, that happens to me.
Yeah. Oh, that's cute. And it just it reinforces that like attracts like thing, that like when you, or where you put your focus, that will
yes,
like putting it on the positives. And
oh my God,
as a teacher as well as the kids starting to notice those cause and effects.
Yeah, the kids are so amazing.
Well, they're so lucky to have you. I mean, how animated you are. I'm like, oh my God, you must be so much fun in class.
I'm very, very, very silly. And I think that the kids, it's like a brain break for everybody, the teachers and the kids. I do come home exhausted, but in the best possible way. Like my heart is so full every day when I come home. And I feel like it's such good work, and I feel like I'm so honored and blessed and humbled to be doing it, because who else, I mean, literally a dream job. This is what I want, and I'm just kind of doing my thing, and it's beautiful. So
maybe we end with, and how we really obviously agree how important self-care is, and how what do you do find that is your go-to nourishing so that you can keep doing this dream job that you love?
I will not lie. I love all forms of fitness, and I love yoga, but I also like a balanced fitness. So I do like the dance classes, and I like the kickboxing, and I like I love PIO too. Have you ever done PIO? It's it's yoga. It's
I
like,
did it once and I did not know what I was getting in for. I'm like, oh, I like Pilates. I like yoga.
it's hard. Right?
Yeah, I was laying on the ground at the end and the instructor's like, I think we killed her.
I do love that. I love bar. So I love fitness, any form of fitness. I still obviously love yoga, but it has to be balanced for me. If I was only ever doing yoga and I wasn't being able to be more like assertive or more with fitness, I wouldn't enjoy it as much, I think. So, but I love to research. I have issues because I'm always working because I don't read for fun anymore. I read for, even if it's a kid's book, I'm reading, what mindfulness lesson can I get out of this? What can I take from this book and teach to the kids? It's like a mindful lesson.
Yeah.
You know, I'm always looking and researching and a million books behind me. And I love to read. That's helpful though. I love to create
I
lessons.
feel like I'm seeing a book in the future, a yoga magic book. But yeah.
Well, I had to write a manual, you know.
Oh, for your class? Or you
Yes.
well, hold on. For the grad class?
For Yoga Alliance, you have to do a manual when you propose to be a school. It's like 80 pages.
And they take your course? That's the manual that they get when they take your course? Or is that just what you had to submit to?
That's what they'll get. That's what the students will get too. If I become a yoga school. So that's the training manual. I have started a book so many times. You know what's weird is I feel like, is it already done? Do I have anything else to offer? There's so many out there and I just get nervous that it's not going to be well received. I've even wrote one on a children's book on the theme is forgiveness. I really, really love it, but I don't know. It's so hard when you're an unpublished author to break the mold.
Yeah. No, I thought like when we first independently published our book, I was thinking, oh, like ASCD and there's some other education organization who they are publishers themselves. So I did have a lot of fun putting together a book, but I need to learn a lot more, I think, before we, like COSM, can become a
publisher.
So I'm learning through our book and we'll see. But I appreciate your time so much, Jessica. And I feel like I want to do one more practice with you. Do you have anything else in your bag of you've done recently that we can do together? Okay, it can be an adult one too. It doesn't have to be a.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know. I was trying to show that stuff. Okay, sure. Do you want to do the adult version of Leave It Alone? It's kind of like the adult version. Okay. So let's just take a few slow, deep breaths. Just bring your awareness back to your breath. And as you breathe in, imagine a tree outside with its leaves falling. Its leaves are falling, they're beautiful colors, but the tree is letting go of those leaves because the leaves no longer serve the tree. The tree is smart enough to know that the leaves are no longer providing a food source, and to conserve energy and get ready for winter, it needs to drop the leaves. What can we leave alone in our lives that we're holding on to, but that really no longer serves us and may even cause us stress, worry, fear? Let's take a few deep breaths to think about the things that we hold on to that no longer serve us, that we could leave alone to free up some of that energy. If you've found something, maybe like old clothes in your closet that no longer fit, or a drawer full of trinkets that you really never use or go back to. Once you've rested on finding something that you could get rid of because it really no longer serves you, and free up some space. Imagine now, maybe you're going to donate it if it's still in good working condition, or maybe you're just going to throw it away. That's fine too. How freeing it is when you can let go of things that no longer serve you. You now have room to embrace things that will serve you and can make you happy, or can at least serve a purpose. And in 3 more breaths. And when you're ready, come back to this moment.